A very warm welcome to everyone present over here. I'm Shashank Sao, convener at Decoder Club. It's an honor for me to host this beautiful event titled Resume or Career. Today we are accompanied by Mr. Soumyajit Bhattacharyay sir, who is an SD2 at Amazon. We, the team at Decoders, have organized this session especially for our final and pre-final year students. This session is all about resume building and how to make it stand out of the crowd. We believe that a resume is a key aspect when looking for jobs, as it is the first thing that recruiters see and judge you upon. A bad resume can be a deal breaker, whereas a good resume can impress, influence, and astonish the recruiter. So, with this, I would like to hand over the control to Divya, who will tell us more about Somajit sir. Over to you, Divya. Hello.
Hello everyone. My name is Divya Shukla and I am the lead for GFG SRM GPC. I warmly welcome you all, first of all, to this beautiful session where we have our honored guest, Soumyajit sir, with us, who is an SD2 at Amazon, and previous to that, he worked at Arcesium. Apart from that, he's an pass out from NIT Jaipur, and he's an experienced software engineer, and he has also conducted various interviews. So that's the reason why we have him here with the session, because this is basically a resume building session, right? So he's the right person who can give us the tips and tricks to make our resume stand out. Also, Soumyajit sir has a YouTube channel where he conducts various giveaways and has various quality content there. We'll share the link of the channel after the session. Also, it will be there in the feedback form, so you can just visit his channel and just subscribe and see the content over there. So from here, let's start with the session. So I'd like Soumyajit sir to give a brief intro about how he got into Amazon as an SD2 from his journey as a student. So
Hi, yes. Hi, yeah. Thank you for the introduction. I will say, let me just quickly introduce myself as well. As you have heard right now, I am Soumyajit Bhattacharyay, and I'm currently working as an SD2 at Amazon. I started, the entire journey is probably started from my college years itself. I did my college from NIT Jaipur, and from there on, I started embarked on this particular journey. Uh, During the college years, one major con I would say of NIT Jaipur is that the coding culture was not that great there. And because of which many of us did not have or did not know about competitive programming or any such things during our colleges, or even if we did know about them, we did not pursue them. So I would just wanted to say that you probably do not require to pursue competitive programming just for the sake of interviews or just for the sake of getting interview calls. But yes, do that if you want, if you have a passion for doing that. So we did not have much understanding about the competitive programming aspect during our college years. So we just focused on understanding the basics of data structures and algorithm and improving our problem solving skills. After doing that, I was able to land the first job offer from Arcesium, which is a subsidiary of the Isha, which is a fintech company, and there I spent around 3.5 years right after college till a few months back. And it was a good journey in Arcesium as well as a company. That company is a very good company to start at. I learned quite a lot in that, and all these learnings, whatever you get while practicing DS problem solving questions, or doing some projects, or practicing or attending these activities, extracurricular activities that you uh, can attend in your college years, will actually help you to build your profile better. By profile, I do not entirely mean that only your resume, but even attending these activities, extracurricular activities, or attending these societies will also help you build yourself as an individual. And you will you will understand the importance of these once you start giving more and more interviews, and you see how these extracurricular activities have a huge impact on the outside of the entire thing. Mainly, I would say that. Apart from that, in RCGM as well, I worked on various technologies that the firm works on. Probably I will not go in detail about what all technologies I worked there. But yes, I gained a lot of experience from working on many things there, and using those experience, I applied to Amazon London. I applied to various other companies. I was selected in Amazon London when I was around 1.5 years of experience. But I rejected that offer for some other reasons altogether. And after 1 year of that offer, a few months back, around 6.5 months back, I was selected as an SD2 at Amazon again. So yes, this has been my journey from my college life till an SD2 at Amazon.
Great to know, sir. And we are really, inspired by the profile that you have and also by the journey that you shared. So moving on to the main aim of the session, which is about resume building. So, sir, as a fresher, like most of us here are freshers, currently in third year or fourth year of our college. So, like we'll be appearing for the placement exams after 3 to 4 months, or probably 5 6 months. So what are the important tips that you would give about resume part, like what should be there, what shouldn't be there, what should we prioritize, and how should we get started with our career, because this is the time where we have to think about such factors. So yeah.
Sure, I will probably will be able to give you some examples from my own experience as an interviewer. What all things I look at while I am scanning through a resume of a candidate, what all things generally other people look at while selecting any resumes, and so on. So, first and foremost, what I would say is just wanted to clear out the way is that whatever information that you are writing in resume, make sure that whatever the information is, like whatever projects you have worked on or whatever technologies you know, make sure that whatever information that you are writing in your resume, you actually know all of it properly. And even if you have some doubt in the technologies that you have written or listed, or even if you do not fully know or understand or grasp that knowledge, then I would suggest that you call these things out. For example, um, I in fact did my internship from Amazon as well, and in my internship resume, what I mentioned there was I know basics of C++ or basics of Java. This is what I had written in that in resume. Why I am saying to write this, and it is better to write this rather than saying that I know Java completely and you don't know it, because of the expectation that it sets with the interviewer. For example, you have sent your resume and you have written a bunch of technologies in that. Let's say you have written 9, 10 technologies that you have sometimes in your college life or in your professional experience have worked upon, but you don't know these technologies properly. And you have written those things. And I see your resume, then I consider that whatever you have written there, you know it properly. So if I ask any question around those technologies, I would also consider that you should be able to answer those questions to me. And if you are not able to answer those questions, then it leaves a very negative impression of the candidate on the interviewer. So I would say that whenever you are listing down the technologies, be sure that whatever technologies you are listing down, whatever languages you are listing down, you know that properly. By properly, I mean from a interview standpoint, whatever things you should be knowing, you should know about those languages, and not that you have worked on it. For example, you have worked something with in your second year and just wrote it because you wanted to write it and showcase it. Don't do that, and be as honest as possible, because that will help. For example, if you write that you know basics of Java or you know basics of C++ or whatever it is, then the interviewer will have a lower expectation from you around whatever technology you have written or around the language that you have written. So even if you are able to answer those questions, whatever the interviewer might ask around that, then that will create a positive impression of you on the interviewer's mind, and which is extremely helpful. So first and foremost, always write those things that you are comfortable at and confident at. And even if you want to, jot down many things, jot it down properly and mention it, that mention the proficiency level at those things, I would say, and that will be extremely helpful. Second important thing that I would say is, uh, do projects. Do projects. Why? Because ultimately, whenever you will be submitting your resumes, your competitive programming profiles will not be considered. Why I'm saying the competitive programming profiles will not be considered while selecting the resumes is because the competitive programming profiles are very easy to, whatever ranking you can see or whatever rating that you can see, it is very easy to fake. And since it is very easy to fake in this current scenario, uh, people do not look at it while selecting the resume. Hence, you can write your competitive programming profiles in your resume, no problem about that. I'm not saying that. But uh, what I'm saying is people will not look at it and see ki, his competitive programming rating is 2600 or whatever it is. So I will take this and I will not take the other ones because it is extremely easy to fake. But there is one negative aspect associated with writing competitive programming profiles from an interview point of view. And that is probably I can also attest to that. And that is basically, and I'm guilty of doing that many a times, is that whenever I see a resume and I see that it is written that if their code forces rating is 2000 or code chef rating is 2300 or whatever it is, then I automatically assume that this person will be very proficient in problem solving and data structures and algorithm, and hence subconsciously I tend to ask a tougher question to that particular person in comparison to someone who has not written these things. And these things happen very frequently because the main point or main aim of writing your competitive programming rating is to showcase how good you are in your problem solving skills or your data structure and algorithm skills. So if you do that, then make sure that you are just not faking it and you actually know it, and you are actually proficient enough to solve those questions, because 70% chances are there that the interviewer, after seeing that, will tend to ask you tougher questions just to see whether or not whatever rating you have written is actually true or not. And I am guilty of doing that myself in many of the interviews where whenever I have seen that, it automatically in my subconscious mind, I start to think that he might be or she might be extremely proficient in data structures and algorithm, and there is no point in asking medium or easy questions to that person, and it's better to understand how much proficient that person is and ask a tougher question or harder question to that particular person. And sometimes I've seen people fail there because they're not able to answer that question. So I would say probably writing your competitive programming profile or rating information inside your resume might not be the best option. Apart from that, the thing about projects is, whatever projects that you do, uh, write whatever things that you will be writing about your projects and whatever projects that you will be doing, try to frame it in such a way that you can show some amount of impact of the work that you have done. For example, you are building, let's say, a website, or you're building any web application or any Android application, and so on and so forth. So how you should write that down inside your resume is basically try to write about 2 lines of what the project does. Then try to list down the technologies that you use to solve this project, the third party APIs uh, uh, that you integrated with, or whatever technologies and other data sources that you use to actually build this project. You note those down. Apart from noting those down, also note that let's say this particular project you helped in doing in solving some basic problem that was happening in your college. It can be anything. So if you are doing some projects which is actually helping in solving some of the problems, then note them down. Note the impact of your work that you have done. For a experienced professional, it is slightly easier to note the impact because their impact is directly translated to what impact they have caused in their company. But for a fresher, it is slightly difficult. But yes, you can still write the impact that your project created by stating that this was the problem that you saw, and you were trying to solve this problem. And by using your project, you have seen that 70% of the times the problem that you were seeing got resolved. So backing what you are writing, backing your project with some amount of data is very, very helpful while you are writing some details about the projects that you do. As well as whenever you're writing the details about the project, always mention the technologies that you are using, the services that you are using behind the scenes, because then what the interviewer will also see is the technologies are not mentioned directly at one particular place and one particular location, but it is actually mentioned inside the projects at what technologies did you use and where did you use them. Now, one more important thing here is from an interview point of view and from a resume point of view, whatever project that you are writing inside your interview, do not write all the projects that you did. There's no point in writing the basic projects that you did. Write top 2 or 3 good projects that you have done throughout your college, whatever good projects that you have done. Write those top 2 or 3 projects. No need to clutter your resume with 6, 7 projects. Doesn't matter, because an interviewer will not look at all the projects anyhow, and only the best projects should be highlighted, and that will increase your chances. um, and whatever project you are writing, make sure you know complete detail about that project. For example, if you are writing some project, you can expect the interviewer to ask you questions around that project. And what kind of questions can the interviewer ask around the project? So the interviewer can ask questions such as, like, let's say you decided to use MERN stack for doing your project, or you decided to use Node.js as a backend language for your project. So the interviewer can ask, like, why did you use Node.js as a backend language, and why did not you use Java or C++ or Python or any other language in your use case? So you should be able to understand what choices you are making while building a project and why you are using a certain technology. For example, if you say that I have used MongoDB, you should be able to understand and make the interviewer understand as well that why you selected MongoDB and why you did not go with DynamoDB or Elasticsearch or any other form of database, or traditional SQL kind of a database. So an answer to this, a bad answer to this is like, I selected MERN stack to do a project and I did the project using MERN stack. That is not the answer to such questions. So I would say that whatever project you are doing and whatever project you are writing, try and understand the technology choices that you made and why you made them. Probably spend some time before the interviews, or whenever you are trying to develop a project or create a project, whatever you are doing, try to spend some time to actually assess what are the alternatives present. Like, do I always need to use MongoDB, or can I use something else like a DynamoDB or a Cassandra or Elasticsearch or traditional RDBMS kind of a database? Try to assess why you are using MongoDB. Do not select a stack and then do a project. Select a project and then select what technologies best suit that project and use those. So you should be able to understand the difference between the alternatives that are present, because many a times whenever you will be grilled on these projects, you will be grilled along these lines only. No one will ask you to tell like what your project does, because you are already writing it there. So they know that the project is doing it. The project is, let's say, translating the data from A source to B source. But they will ask like what you are using to do that, why you are using a certain specific set of language, why you are using a certain technology to do that, and why you are not using the other technologies that are available. Or they might also ask that what are the different technologies that you evaluated while selecting a particular project or while selecting a particular stack, and so on and so forth. So you should be able to understand your project in such a way that you are able to answer these questions. Apart from that, what I would say is your whatever CV, whatever data points that you are writing in your CV, uh, make sure you write it in point wise rather than paragraph wise under any section that you are writing. Because if you write things in under for example, you are writing things under your projects and you're mentioning everything in one paragraph, then it becomes completely illegible and the interviewer will not read it, or the recruiter will not read it properly. Plus, if you want to highlight some technologies, do highlight them, make them bold, so that whenever someone is reading, if it's not an automatic tracking system, if it's not an ATS, someone is actually going through your resume to select or reject that resume to proceed for the further round. So you should always make sure that you highlight whatever important aspects are there, whatever important technologies you are working, highlight them using bold fonts or whatever you can, but do highlight them so that whenever someone is reading your resume, they quickly look at all the points that are present there, and they can correspondingly assess what all technologies you have worked at, and then decide whether or not to select it. And one more important thing about writing your resume is, do not make just a single resume and send it across to different companies. I would suggest that whatever company is visiting your campus, or whatever companies you will be sending your resume in off-campus placements or whatever you are setting, always make sure that your resume is tailored to that particular company. Every company has different sets of values or different sets of things that they look at, and every job description is different. So if you have something pertaining to a particular job description, then I would say highlight those technologies, highlight those projects in that resume, and not the other projects. And if there are certain values that the company prefers, for example, at Amazon, we have like 14 leadership principles. I don't know if you have heard about it. And all the interviews that you will see is based upon these 14 behavioral leadership principles. So if you are sending your resume to any Amazon recruiter or whatnot, it would be extremely advantageous for you if you highlight these leadership principles that are present. You can search for the leadership principles in internet. It is present, it is written, and examples are given what these leadership principles are. If you can highlight those leadership principles inside your resume properly, so that whenever an Amazon's recruiter, let's say, is reading through your resume, they directly can relate you with the leadership principles that you have highlighted, with the values that you have highlighted, and from a subconscious mind point of view, will obviously have a positive impact. So whenever I like applied to Amazon, I had highlighted the leadership principles that I have used here. For example, similar to the concept of leadership principles, Atlassian, Twilio, they have core set of values. RCGM too has some core set of values, and these are like very freely available in the internet. You go through them, understand what their values are, and try to use those words, try to use those sentences and phrases about their values into your projects, to showcase that you yourself are culturally aligned into their organization, and that will also help you increase your chances in getting the resume selected. Apart from it, always, whatever the JD demands, your resume should reflect that. If the JD says that you should have a good experience of Java and you are not writing Java at all inside your skills, then obviously your resume will directly get rejected. That's for sure. So you should always tailor your resume so that it matches or tries to match what the job description of that particular thing is. I would say if you more or less follow these tips, you can say it would be good if you can make your resume around it, and probably while any recruiter or hiring manager or in an interview setting, if someone looks at your resume, it will create a positive impact about you on their mind. Apart from it, I have two resume samples. One is mine when what I use right now, and the other one what I used at my college. I will send it over to Decoders, and you guys can take a look at it. Uh, Take a look at the sample resumes. Obviously, the content of the resume might not be accurate because I have to redact certain things because of non-confidentiality agreements. But yes, the overall structure, how and what impact I was talking about, how to write about the projects, you can look at it from that point of view, and definitely use it in your resumes as well.
Okay, that was a lot to learn from you, sir. So, okay, considering few points that you just mentioned, like we have a few questions regarding that. So, in the resume, we have various sections like the experience part, then the POR, then there are various sections, right? So, would you like how would you prioritize the sections? Like, what should be there at first? Like,
Correct.
probably everyone writes about, then education, then experience, and how would you set those topics? Like, which should be prioritized first? What should be on the top, and what should be at the bottom?
So it completely depends on at which stage of career you are. For example, you guys are freshers, so from your point of view, the obviously you can write about section of career objective section at the very top if you want to. If you don't want to, you might not write. Doesn't matter. Then at the top, your education should be present because you are freshers and you are students who are studying a university or whatever it is. So at the top, your education should be present. After that, whatever experience you have, if you have internships, write those internships because internships matter and internships count. If you can get a good internship, write those internships experience. Whatever you are writing, it should be in reverse chronological order, which means the latest whatever you will be doing will be at the top, and then the ones which you will be doing at the previous stages will be at the bottom, and so on and so forth. After, let's say you have written about your internship experiences, if you have any, then you can start about writing about the projects that you did, again in reverse chronological order, and only write those projects that you are comfortable at, and do not just write all the projects that you have done because that is not required, and you should only write the better ones or the good ones which you want your conversation, your interview to drive on. So write those things again in reverse chronological order. After writing about the projects, then you can write about achievements. If you have any achievements, like you participated in any hackathon or you participated in Google Hashcode, GSOC, or any other achievements or any open source contributions you might have, you can write about those in that section. And after that, you can write about any extracurricular activities that you participated in your college. I would structure the resume like that.
Okay, sir. And before moving to the next question, I'd like to announce that we'll have a giveaway by at the end of the session, and the audience, whoever is attending, feel free to ask your queries either by unmuting yourself or write a query in the chat box. We'll pick some questions from there if we have time. And then the next question is, sir, how important is open source contribution? How is it compared to a job experience? Like, most of the people who doesn't get a good internship, they can still get involved into open source, and that is equally like that is treated equivalent to your job experience or an internship experience, right? So
I think so. Your network bandwidth is low. I will just try to answer the question. Yes, open source contribution is treated in a very good light. I would not say it is treated equally to an internship experience because it is not treated equally as an internship experience, because an internship experience is completely different than that of an open source contribution that you might have. On the other hand, yes, if you do not get an internship experience, it is always better that you can get into an open source project that is present, or the open source contests that are being held all through the year. It is always good to have some sort of open source contribution in your resume as well. It typically shows that you want to give back to the community, and by giving back to the community, you are contributing to the open source projects that are present. So yes, always, if you do not get any internship, which is fine, you can work on open source projects that are present, or work on the famous open source contests and programs that are present currently in India, or outside India in the world, and contribute there. And yes, and whatever you contribute, you can definitely write it, and it's a plus point. and it will be treated like it is a good positive impact. It leaves a positive impact on the mind of an interviewer or the recruiter or the hiring manager will be looking at your resume.
Um, okay. So yeah, as you said, that competitive coding is not given consideration or is not a weighted thing that should be there in your resume. But then there are people who prefer writing, like suppose if I wrote about a skill like C++, so they rate themselves like 4 star or 3 star, or like they just rate themselves by their own. So how beneficial or is that, or is it good to write that or not?
You can write that. See, these ratings are not, there is no standardized ratings for these things, right? So someone's 5 star can be someone's 2 star, and someone's 2 star can be someone else's 5 star, whatever it
So
is.
is there any impact of writing those? Is there any loss, or is there something
So there
that
is no loss in not writing it for sure. There's the only impact that can happen is that if you are saying that you are 5 star, and I personally do not understand what 5 star means, but I will assume that 5 star means you will be knowing everything about C++. And similarly, again, what I said, whatever you will be writing, correspondingly, the interviewer will react to that itself. So if you are writing that you are 5 star in C++, then the interviewer will tend to ask more tricky questions around C++ to you if the interview is around C++. And if you don't write it, there is no impact at all. Like there's no positive impact whatsoever of writing 5 star or 4 star or 3 star because there's no standardized way of evaluating these things.
A person is a very beginner in that particular technology. So will it be right to add it in the resume?
Correct. Yes. Yes. If you are at a beginner level in a particular technology, you can write it in your resume, but just mention that you are at beginner proficiency or something of that sort, or you know basics of certain things. Because in some of my resumes that I've given out, I have called out these things properly. That I know basics of, let's say, C++ or basics of Java or whatever the language or whatever technology I was talking about there. So if you do that, that's fine. You can go ahead and write it. And if generally what happens is, or from a company perspective, I would like to add a few points here. Most of the companies generally tend to hire or wants to hire software engineers who are technology agnostic, which means whatever technology will be suitable for a particular product or whatever technology will be suitable for a particular service, they can pick it up on the job. And the company also has an expectation that the software engineer that they are hiring obviously can pick those technologies, pick those languages, whatever is required for the product directly when they will be working. And this is something which is known as contextual learning, and which is much more preferred. Although obviously in certain companies there are certain rules which are specifically for a particular technology. In those cases, obviously, if you don't write that technology into your resume will not get selected. But for other companies or other generic profiles of software engineers, if you are beginner, you might skip it as well. It will not matter much. There's another question.
okay, so there is another question from Amartya Gupta. Good evening, sir. What is more important in education of a person and how problems of lack of job opportunities?
I would say mostly experience of a person triumphs the education of a person. Uh, Once you start, so let me back up a little. If you see there right now there is let's say you are 2021 graduates and you are trying for off-campus placements, but you see that there are very few opportunities for these off-campus placements across India, and only few people are getting selected, and most of the people are not getting selected. Why this is happening? This is happening primarily because of two reasons. One, obviously, it's an exceptional year that went by in 2020, where generally the intake of entry level software engineers as D1s were completely restricted in most of the companies. For example, at Amazon, we did not hire any. we hired very less SD1s during the 2020 year. For Microsoft, they stopped, they freeze their hiring. Adobe freeze their hiring. Salesforce freeze their hiring. Google did not hire any SD1s, only the ones who had applied to them before hired. Because of these situations, the hiring process for SD1 is very restricted. And now what happens in off-campus placements is like people from all across the country are applying for those only 2 times whenever the off-campus openings are available for a particular company. There, all the people are applying there, and hence just purely because of the number of people who are applying and the number of open positions, which are extremely less for off-campus SDEs, is because you will be seeing that only a very few people are getting selected and most of them are not getting selected. However, if you gain, let's say, 6 months of experience from a company, you will see that you are getting calls from most of the product-based companies, most of the other companies that are present, because you have that experience, and you will no longer be treated as a fresher, but you will be treated as a market hire or a lateral. And once you start getting treated as a lateral, your experience matters more than your education. So as you go through the years in your career, you will start noticing that people will start talking less and less about your education and more about your experience. And this is the reason why once you start working, the education part, which I said should be at the top because you are a student, moves at the bottom of the list. And in the resume that I will share, you can take a look at it as well. For the university graduates, the freshers, the education is at the top, but for the external hires of the experienced people, the education section of it moves completely to the bottom. So that is there, and there is one more question up. I already answered lack of job opportunities. It is because of an exceptional year that we all had in 2020 because of this pandemic, and coupled with it, in off-campus scenes, there is always a high number of people who are applying for only, applying at one particular job ID together, because of which it's sheer game of probability. On the other hand, in case of laterals, like after 6 months of experience, there will be job IDs available all throughout the year, and people will be applying all throughout the year. Hence, the number of applications for one particular job ID will get reduced, and hence your chances of getting selected will get improved significantly. In between hiring
Okay.
process.
Another question that we have is, what is the difference between of hiring process of service-based and product-based company?
The basic difference between hiring process of service-based companies and product-based companies is that product-based companies generally focus more on your problem-solving skills for SD1s, and from SD2 onwards, apart from your problem-solving skills, they also focus on your design skills, both high-level design as well as low-level design skills. On the other hand, service-based companies, although for off-campus hires, they do take coding tests, but after a certain point of time, they are more language and framework specific roles that are present in service-based companies. And correspondingly, the interviews at service-based companies are also around languages and frameworks that they are using and that they want resources for. And that is one difference between the hiring of service-based companies and product-based companies.
Okay, there are several questions in my inbox as well. So we'll try covering as much as we can, but since there is time limit, so we'll consider few. So now I can see, how can I get my resume reviewed for errors? Is there any way to know the rating or worth of the resume that I make?
This is very subjective in nature. You can get it reviewed. There are certain services. I do not recall the names of those services, and probably I will not tell it right now because it will be endorsing those services. So I won't do that. Uh, you can check it in the net. There are certain websites that do resume reviews for free as well. So you can get them reviewed there. Uh, but again, the rating or worth of a resume is very subjective in nature, and there's no point in doing that. What you can do is try and ask for resumes of different people, and over LinkedIn, and if they comply, you can have a look at it and check what your resume is missing or what more things you can add in your resume.
One more question, a bit off track, but like since you're at a very good place, so what are the extracurricular activities that you did while you were in your college? Like when did you make your mind that yes, I have to go for this company or I should start preparing? What was the right time for you, according to your experience? So
So
just
according,
share that
yeah,
with us.
definitely. In college, I was part of many extracurricular activities. I was part of a coding group in our college. Apart from that, I was also part of the drama group of my college. So these were the two major extracurricular groups that I was part of. And if you want to know from when I started to learn about all these opportunities that are present there, is mainly with the coding group that I was part of. They had similar kind of sessions that we are having right now, and there our seniors came in and had a discussion with us around, I don't know, around in second year, I guess, just before third year internship programs. Around in second year, we attended those sessions and we conducted those sessions as well in our college for second, third, fourth year students. And they actually told us about all the opportunities that are out there, what are the different kind of companies that are present, how to prepare for the interviews, what are the resources that you can use to prepare for these interviews, as well as they also, took coding contests, coding tests. Also, we also conducted several coding contests through the coding groups that were present there. So that was a nice outlet to interact with your seniors, interact with people who have, who have been placed at good companies, and try and understand what they did and how they went about.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sir, as you told that there was not a good coding environment in your college. So, sir, how did you manage to crack the interviews, and how did you prepare basically data structures and algorithm to crack the interviews? I mean, what sort of preparation or the extent of preparation that is required? So,
Yeah.
please
Uh,
guide.
Sure. Yeah, that is true. Right now, although the coding environment has improved at NIT Jaipur a bit, but during our time, nobody did computer programming. We did not, in fact, have any idea of computer programming till we were in our third year or something. So we did not pursue that because that was a bit too late to pursue. What we did is, or what I did, I would say, is uh, make so basically whatever company you will be interviewing for, or whatever product based companies you will be interviewing for, they will not ask you questions around computer programming. Computer programming is a completely different genre, which it's a sport ideally. And obviously, if you practice computer programming, if you're good at computer programming, you will be in as a byproduct of that, you will be good at problem solving skills and your data structure skills will be good. But that is not required at all to crack the interviews at these product based companies, because companies do not ask questions of that nature. What questions do companies ask generally? You can find those questions directly in many resources that are present. I personally use Geeks for Geeks, Lead Code, another website, as well as InterviewBit that is probably present right now as well. So I used these three resources to prepare for data structures and algorithm, uh, to practice for data structures and algorithm, because I don't think so Geeks for Geeks have much material to actually prepare for it. You can
It
prepare.
has a particular section, archive of the questions company wise. So
Yeah.
it's very useful.
Yeah, that is correct. So you can practice questions from these websites properly. In LeetCode, for example, if you are able to do any medium tagged question that is present in LeetCode properly without any help, without looking at the topic, then you can be certain that you are more or less at a place where you can crack these companies easily. And in Geeks for Geeks, one of the best things about Geeks for Geeks is that the interview experiences that it has. And there are like literally hundreds and hundreds of interview experiences in that. So whenever an interview used to come up, I used to go through these interview experiences and treat it as if I am giving those interviews and try and practice the questions likewise to understand where I am at with respect to the interview that is present. So that is how I prepared for my data structures and problem solving, and that is what I even do right now as well.
Okay, guys, just to make this session more interactive, I'd like to encourage the participants to, turn on your mic, if not camera. If you're not comfortable with turning on your camera, just turn on your mic. You can speak up your questions by yourself. You can interact with sir. It's all for you. So feel free to do that. Okay, so for now, we have a question. What should be the maximum length of the resume which will be preparing for MNCs like Amazon in future?
1 page. So the maximum length should be 1 page. Till now, I have maintained a 1 page resume. Sometimes it might become difficult after some years of experience when you have many companies in your resume, then you can extend it to 2 pages. But right now, for you guys, it should not exceed 1 page. That's it. And 1 page means one side of the page.
Okay.
At least one
Okay.
page and at most overleaf pages. That's it. Nothing more than that. Sorry for that.
Okay. Utkarsh, you can. Okay, fine, wait. Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
the
So,
next question. Hmm,
how
Go
did
ahead.
you manage your time? How did you manage your time? Like for, as you said, you were in the cultural club as well, and in the coding club. And for learning DSA, it's a tough work. Like it's not a one night work that you go for any university exam. It needs experience. So how did you manage your time all about?
So, as you said, learning DSA is a continuous process, and in fact, I still now do it. So, one thing that you should be aware of, even if you are maybe graduating and starting your job, whatever job you are starting, never leave practicing data structures and algorithms. That's for sure. If you leave practicing data structures and algorithms, you start to get rusty because you do not necessarily use all of the concepts in your day-to-day work. You might be using certain concepts, but not all. And once you start losing that touch in it, it will again be an arduous process to start practicing from the beginning, which will take a lot of time. So that is what I did as well. I do not stop, tried not to stop practicing DSA based questions, even if it's like a few questions a week, but I try to do that. So in college as well, I did similarly. Continued practicing data structures and algorithms, even if it's like one question a day, that's fine. Because if you do one question a day, ultimately in the entire year, you will be doing like 360, 365 questions, which is like way too much questions. And if you are able to do those questions, you will be able to crack most of the companies easily. So keep on practicing. No need to see, you have to invest some time here, and you might have to compromise on certain other aspects as well. For example, you might have to compromise on your sleep or your social cycle, which is always there. But yes, that is something that you would have to consciously do and consistently practice.
Okay, so we have another question. Do certificates matter? Adding to this question, I'd like to ask what kind of certificates, if yes, like people do have a lot of certificates, like some get participation certificates, some have the appreciation certificates, some have the organization or volunteering certificates, and some have the course completion certificate. I mean, there is a wide category in that certificate thing. So what, if yes, if it matters, so what kind of certificate should be mentioned in your resume?
No, certificates don't matter.
Okay.
So that was
What
the
if someone as okay, what if someone as fresher don't have internship experience or experience of open source? Will his or her resume be selected? But he or she is good in data structures, algo, and have bunch of good projects.
Uh, yes, obviously, if you compare two resumes, so one which has an internship experience or a good internship experience at a good company or has good open source projects, obviously, if I ask you the question, like you are the manager of of a team, and you have two candidates from the same college. So there is nothing that is differentiating on the basis of college. And someone has an internship experience at a good company or open source contributions, and someone does not have. Who would you prefer? Obviously, if there is a point-to-point, one-to-one comparison between two candidates, obviously someone who has a better or good internship experience or a good open source contribution will be preferred over someone who does not have that. But that's just resume filtering. And for most use cases, that will not happen. And generally, uh, uh, both of them, if they are similarly placed and have similarly good projects that you have done on your own as well, should ideally get selected for the subsequent rounds.
Sir, what about
Um,
the aggregate percentage or the CGPA? Like some students have above 9 pointer and they're not much good at data structures, and they have only made one or two projects. So what about them?
Yeah. Now it completely depends from one company to another. I have seen certain companies who prefer CGPA completely and take people from higher CGPA. I can talk about from Amazon's perspective right now, because I'm currently working at that. Amazon does not look at the CGPA of a student, uh, and does not have any premonition about to only select people with higher CGPAs, because obviously there is some cutoff criteria, I think so, and it will depend from one college to other, but I think so the cutoff criteria is 6 or 6.5 CGPA, I think so. And if you are above that, then you,
approx 7.
sorry, sorry.
It's approx 7 for Amazon as far as I've seen in various eligibility criteria.
Might be. In our college, it was 6 or probably even lesser than that, because some of the people who got selected there had a CGPA of around 6.2, 6.3 as well, but they were very good coders to see, and had good projects. So it completely depends. The CGPA criteria varies from one college to another. And if you ask from a lateral perspective or an experience higher perspective, the CGPA criteria does not matter at all. Nobody looks at it. And we, in fact, do not even mention the CGPA in the resumes, because nobody looks at it and nobody asks any questions around that.
So may I ask a question?
Sure. Sure.
A minute. I could see question.
So my question is a bit off topic, but I want to ask that how much importance and weightage does theoretical subjects like operating system or DBMS have in a technical interview?
In a technical interview, again, it is company dependent. For example, Amazon does not ask any questions from theoretical subjects whatsoever. So all your interviews will be on data structures and algorithm or problem solving, or completely behavioral in nature, asking about your projects, or asking about certain behavioral traits that you might have shown in the projects. The thing that I was calling about leadership principles around that. That's the case with Amazon. Now, if I tell you about the case with, let's say, Media.net, DirectEye, or DE Shaw, Arcesian, they do ask theoretical questions. And generally, the theoretical questions are from operating systems and DBMS. From networking, mostly people do not ask. Some very famous questions are there, like what happens when you type a URL in the search bar, or what's DNS resolution, and all those kind of things. Some very typical famous questions of networking are there. Generally, people, if they ask from there. Otherwise, people generally focus on operating systems and DBMS from core subjects, and that is completely company dependent. I would say most of the financial services firms like Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, DE Shaw, even TRC as well as DirectEye Group, Media.net, Zeta, uh, and DirectEye. All these companies, they do have dedicated rounds for computer fundamentals. You might be seeing that if you go through their interview experiences as well. And even I was asked the same in the Media.net interview. So they do ask that, and it completely depends on one company to another. And generally, it's operating systems and DBMS. And yes, you should be having good enough knowledge in both operating systems and DBMS to be able to answer those questions, because they are conceptual questions that they will be asking. Like seldom you will find them asking you questions like what is the difference between process and threads. That is not what they will ask for sure. It might be masked around some conceptual problem that might happen, like you have 4 threads and you have a process intensive work that your CPU is doing. Then how many threads it should spawn, or if you have 4 cores, then how many processes it should spawn, something of that sort. So some conceptual questions around that you might be asked. Or and from DBMS point of view as well, you might get questions like how the data is actually stored inside. Let's say we are saying that we are storing our data in SQL database. So how the data is actually being stored there. So the concepts of binary index trees, binary index trees, indexing, multi-level indexing, and how it is actually mapped there comes, and why we are using one form of tree and why we are not using something else, and so on and so forth. So all these questions are very conceptual questions, and you should be able to understand and visualize things like how the data is actually stored in disk, what are the parameters that are considered while storing the data, and all these things, and you will be able to answer those questions.
Sir, one more question.
Yeah.
Sir, what difference can be made if I am developing as an individual or I am contributing on a project individually, or I am contributing with a team? So what difference can it make?
It doesn't really make a difference. Up till a point, you know the project that you have done. So see, the thing is, if you are contributing to a project individually, so you technically own the entire project that you are doing, or the entire contribution that you are doing. So if you write that, more chances are that you will know the answers of most of the questions. But if you are working as part of the team, you should have a holistic view of what other people are also doing, so that from an interviewer's point of view, obviously the interviewer will ask you questions like what is the part in which you worked at, and you should always be able to answer those questions around that part. But you should also have an idea of what the other team members are doing. But apart from that, there's no issue at all if you are working individually or working with team. In fact, working with team might be preferred as well, because ultimately in organizations you will be working with teams itself. So there's no such problem with that.
Thank you, sir.
Sudhanshu has a lot of question in every session. I have to stop this guy to ask questions. Okay, so we have a few more questions with us. So guys, I'd appreciate if you could just unmute yourself and ask so as to make the session more interactive. Also, we are running out of time. It was supposed to end at 8. But yeah, since the session is interactive, so I don't think sir would mind staying with us for a few more minutes.
Yeah.
Oh God, I think the remaining time is again 10. Okay, so talking about the giveaway thing. So yeah, normally normally the giveaways are conducted by sir in his channel in the way like he'll say that you have to comment on a post about why do you think you deserve this particular thing. So if you want any one of you or those who are interested into getting those and getting that reward of Amazon SD test series, you can just unmute yourself and tell your experience like why do you want it, why do you think you want it. Otherwise we'll just do it randomly and you'll be informed on your email. So if there is someone who wants to do it, please be quick. You can just unmute yourself and do it. Otherwise, we'll move forward with the feedback form. I would request Dhruv to share the feedback form in the comments so that everyone can access it. Okay, if you have any question, please, we're not taking any questions from comment now since there are a lot of questions there. So please unmute yourself and ask. If you want, you can also, just say about your experience till now. How was the session and why do you want that? Like, why do you think you deserve that? So if not, we can just move forward with the feedback form. And
can I ask one question?
Sure, shoot away. There's just 6 minutes
sure.
left.
Go ahead.
Sir, please
Go
tell
ahead.
sir, please tell about your projects, what you made during colleges.
What I made during my colleges. From my college year, I only have one project remaining right now in my resume. All the other projects I've scrapped it off. One of the projects that I did during my college year was to build So it was a curriculum project that I did. It was to build an e-commerce website, and e-commerce website using Java as my backend framework. For my front end, I used um, basic HTML, CSS, Bootstrap for my front end, and Spring Boot for dependency injection, and SQL database for storing the data at that time. So that was one, and the other one was on natural language processing. This is the one which I have currently in my resume as well. And this project was more around trying to detect events that are occurring across the world. So we used to collect Twitter stream information, stream of tweets that is happening around the world. And based upon that, we applied a clustering algorithm. We created a clustering algorithm, researched about it, come up with the parameters of the clustering algorithm to cluster the tweets in such a way that similar tweets are clustered in one particular cluster. And based upon a certain threshold, if the particular cluster reaches that threshold, an alarm gets generated to show us what potential event might be occurring in the world. So that was one project that I did, and it is the only thing that is present here in my resume right now.
Okay, due to some time limit, we have to stop the session here, and we'll be moving forward with the feedback form. About the giveaway thing that we said, we'll send the winner a mail regarding the same by tonight, and we'll announce it on our social media handle. Probably you will be contacted by someone from our team who will call you and get your social media handles. We'll also try featuring you on our Instagram. Also, I would like to thank Sir for being with us for so long. For since the session already is extended by now, and yeah, I'd express my gratitude on behalf of my entire team as well as the attendees who are here. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable experience and for giving us the tips and tricks that how can we improve our resume, how can we stand a chance into the crowd that is there in software engineering. So yeah, I'd also request the audience to please subscribe to his channel. He has a lot of awesome content there. I think we have time if Sahil, you can share the screen and give a tour to Sir's channel. So it would be great. Otherwise, we have already provided the link. So also you're getting a lot of thanks in the comment section. So yeah, we have already shared the link. So please subscribe to his channel. It has awesome content, and he also does various giveaways there. There is an upcoming giveaway as well. Sir, would you give a short in like description of what is it about the
Hi. Yeah, there is a giveaway that is currently running there, and it is about. So there are many things that I'm going to give away there for the participants. Obviously, I think so. You might have heard about Cryo.do. Is a company who is currently doing an externship program. So they have their courses available. So I will be giving away object-oriented programming, applied object-oriented programming course, as well as web development essential course, where at the end of it you will be creating a project as well. That will be given away to everyone who will be participating in the giveaway. Apart from that, for the giveaway winners, there's a company which is known as Pep Coding, which actually has awesome courses. So from Pep Coding's courses as well, I will be giving away 4 courses. One is data structures and algorithm fundamental. The other one is data structures algorithm intermediate, interview preparations and placement program. And with placement program, you would be able to also, Pep Coding will give you around 10 interviews at companies with more than 6 LPA packages. So I will be giving away these 4 courses as well. And apart from that, I will also be giving away Amazon SD test series and SD test series from Geeks for Geeks in this current giveaway.
Thank you for joining us,
sorry,
sir.
Kritika, we are running out of time. We can't take your question. However, We'd love to share the feedback form. You can write up there, and also you can subscribe to Sir's channel. He usually replies to the comments. You can visit there. There's a lot of informative content. Apart from that, we'll be announcing the Decoders membership for the new session as well. So stay tuned with us. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, especially Soumyajit sir for being a part of this event. And we are really honored to have you here for this session. We'll be sharing the recording of the session on our YouTube channel soon. So please make sure you fill the feedback form. Thank you so much, everyone. So I think we should end the meet because less than a minute is remaining. So bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
It was nice. It was nice
Thank
talking
you
to
very
you
much,
guys.
sir.
Be sure to check out Sir's channel.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.